Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Rebel Show. Hope everybody's doing well. Today I want to talk a little bit about the country. I've talked before about how everybody has, how we need to get involved, how we need to be doing things, how we need to be changing the nation as a church. And I haven't spoke a lot about how, so I've been looking at some of this teaching on the 7 mountains of influence. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that, how we have, there are 7 different, they call them mountains, where we have influence. And one of them is family, business, media, church, education, arts, and government. So those are the areas where Christians need to be leading in order to have a godly nation, in order to have morality. And when we allow those to either have no influence or be influenced by evil, you see us in a nation where we are now, like the families being destroyed. The family's kind of being renamed where 2 men or 2 women can raise children, and it's not God's design. God's best for everybody is a man and a woman raising children. That's God's design, And in the business realm, you have a lot of evil, you have a lot of greed. There's a lot of people out there just after themselves. They're not looking out for the interest of the people purchasing their products. They're not looking out for the best interest of their employees. And so there's evil in business. And we need godly people in business. One, because the Bible talks about having just weights and measures, treating your customers fairly, doing things with a good attitude, with integrity. And if you do that, you don't need as much legislation on business and stuff like that. So we also, another thing in the business mountain that we need, as I've talked about before, is wealth. If you have Christian business leaders that are doing things the right way and treating people right and giving an honest product and selling it for an honest price, integrity is an important thing in business. You can develop a lot of wealth because of good customer service and integrity. And I think that's something businesses need to continue to strive for. And when Christian business leaders are building wealth, they can use that money to fund the gospel around the world and help other people and help people in need. We tend to let the government take care of people. But I think, the church really needs to be the one taking care of the poor and needy, and not just giving them money to help them, giving them education, training them, teaching them skills so that they can get out and be productive too. Because God wants us all to be productive. When he put Adam and Eve in the garden, he gave them a job to tend the garden. God designed us to be productive. He designed us to work. And if we just sit back and collect income just to survive, it takes away that core thing on the inside of us that really gives us satisfaction. When you work and produce and are successful, it gives you a satisfaction on the inside that God created to be there. And we're getting away from that in a sense, and we need to get back to some of that. Another one of the mountains is the media mountain. Like you've seen the Hollywood scandals lately. There's a lot of corruption. There's a lot of men treating women poorly, and it's a terrible thing to see this coming out. It's good that it's coming out. It's good that darkness is being revealed. It's good that our president and his cabinet, and there's a lot of Christians out there that are praying for this nation, that are looking for this nation to return back to the Lord and letting God back in, and it's exposing a lot of this evil, and now we can deal with it, and that's huge. So the media mountain, it's corrupt movies. There's all kinds of junk in the movies, and we need to get back to telling good stories, feel-good stories with content that's not R-rated all the time. Get back to family stories that everybody can watch together, and not all the junk that we have now. And if we can get filmmakers out there, as these leaders in media and film fall away, and we need leaders to step up that are Christian, that can tell good stories. We don't have to shove Christianity down people's throats, but we can have good, solid stories with good messages versus all the junk that's out there right now. Another mountain is the church. The church has become almost like an entertainment center versus a place where you can come, fellowship, learn something, be fed from the Bible, and relate to other people, get to know other people. You know, one thing, as I've had a new child, I've read in scriptures how it talks about that the older men teach the younger men, and the older women teach the younger women how to parent, how to do the day-to-day needs of things. You know, we don't have that much anymore. We don't have the mentorship that we used to have in the church. We don't have the family atmosphere. When you go to a 1,000-member church, you don't really get that family thing. You get in there, you get your message, you get your announcements, you do your 5 fast songs and your 5 slow songs. You know, it's the same thing. It needs to be more family. And I think the church is in a position right now where we need to focus less on being entertaining and more on the family aspect of it, more on the small groups. And there's a lot of churches doing that right now, and that's a really good thing. Reverend Charles Finney in 1875 was saying that, this is a quote from him, "If immorality prevails in the land, the fault is ours in great degree. If there is a decay in conscience, if the public press lacks moral discrimination, if the church is degenerate and worldly, if the world loses its interest in religion, if Satan rules in our halls of legislation, if our policies become so corrupt that the very foundation of our governments are ready to fall away, the pulpit is responsible for it." And that's true. And we live in that nation now, where all these things are true. And the pulpit's partially to blame, a lot to blame, because we're not teaching the people godly principles. There are Christians that can vote for things that are ungodly somehow. There's laws that does not allow a church to pastor and teach and give a political view. One good thing that Trump did do is he passed something to kind of hinder the Johnson Amendment, which is basically not allowing 501c3 companies to have a political view and preach a political view. Well, he kind of hindered that some. That thing needs to be gone. The pulpit does need to have a voice. The pulpit should be allowed to have a voice. And just because people donate to a church, that does not give the government power to take away the ability to teach the principles we need to have in our country and present an option of, here's a good view on this politician or on this congressman based on these actions or whatever. You know, the church does need to have a voice, because, man, the leaders in the church are the people. They're the ones, they're the shepherds to the people. And to have an opinion on someone and from a scriptural perspective is very powerful. Another mountain, education. Like, the education system, it seems like they're pumping tons of money into it, and it's just getting worse and worse. You know, years and years and years ago, they used to have every grade in one schoolroom, and they're all the ages are together, and everybody had this core information they had to learn, and when you learn that, you graduate no matter what age you are, whether you were 18 or 15 or whatever. The younger students would learn from the older students, and the older students would have a responsibility to teach the younger students, and it was a great family education type thing. And education now is, I mean, people don't even know who the vice president is anymore. So this is something where Christians can get involved, get in their church boards, and start to have influence there. Again, the arts and government. We know government's corrupt. I'm running out of time. All right, so we know government's corrupt. So one, we've gone through these mountains, but what I want to talk about a little bit is something God's been dealing with me, a scripture God's been showing me. It's Jeremiah chapter 1. Starting in verse 5, he's talking about, "Before I formed thee in the belly, I knew thee." And I have some notes here. So God's saying, before he formed thee in the belly, he knew thee. So he formed us in the belly. He's talking here about actually molding like clay. He molded together like clay who he wanted us to be, like a potter would do with clay. I knew, before I formed thee in the belly, I knew thee. Now this "knew" here is talking about by experience. God had already experienced us and seen us and written all our days in a book before he even formed us in the belly. It talks about he sanctified us or prepared us. and he ordained, or he gave us something to do. He gave us something to do. So before he even formed us, he physically took material and made us to be how he wanted us to be. I'm forgetting my note. He knew us by experience. And if you go on in Jeremiah and you read like verse, I'm just going to read 7 to 10. And then Jeremiah is like, "Oh Lord, behold, I can't speak, for I'm a child. And the Lord said unto me, say not, I am a child. For thou shalt go and where I send you, and whatever I command you to say, you will say. Be not afraid of their faces, for I am with thee to deliver thee, saith the Lord. And the Lord put his hand and touched my mouth. And the Lord said unto me, Behold, I have put my words in your mouth. And see, this day I have set thee over nations, over kingdoms, to root out, pull down, destroy, to throw down, and to plant." So Jeremiah had no confidence in something that God was telling him. I made you. I physically formed you and put things inside you so that you can go accomplish the things I need to. And not only that, not only did I give you the skill set, I'm going to touch your mouth and give you the words to say. I think that's pretty awesome. God will form you to be what you need to be, and then he'll put everything inside you to do it, plus he'll give you the words to say. That's awesome. So if we can take these mountains and we can apply these principles that it's inside us. When we get born again and the Spirit comes to live inside us, we have to realize we are now qualified to do the things God called us to do.